Hello there, ArmAholics. Today's video takes a look at the good, the bad and the ugly side of CSLA Iron Curtain. It seems like it's been a very difficult 24 hours for the CSLA team and Bohemia Interactive following the release of the newest ArmA free creator DLC, CSLA Iron Curtain. I'm trying real hard not to call this a review, but rather an impressions and thoughts video. It's a very recent release, however a quick glance around the Steam review section, Reddit and Twitter will probably give you a current consensus of this particular creator DLC. I really wanted to get a video out yesterday and kind of jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, but I slept on it. I honestly felt a bit deflated by it all, but I didn't want this feeling to override the whole video, so here's my current thoughts on it. We'll start at what Iron Curtain does really well, and that's the terrain itself. As you know by now, I love me a good custom terrain, and Gabretta doesn't really disappoint in this regard. The short version of the story, well, it looks like the offspring between Livonia and Chernarus, which is a good thing. It provides very picturesque rides on the roads that nestle between hills and rivers, sleepy villages located in rolling hills, lakes and other bodies of water at the foot of mountains. And there's also a good variety of forest. I say variety because it would just be easier to cover the whole map in a standard forest. But credit where's credit due for taking the time to add deeper, lush and dense forests in low-lying areas, in the valleys, and adding thinner forested areas on slopes of hills and mountains, and also having the shrubland and rocky outcrops where appropriate on this highland. Things like this do go a long way for the believability and realism of the terrain. There are of course a mixture of new terrain assets such as buildings which come fully furnished and existing older buildings which have been appropriately retextured and furnished to fit the terrain. Also, the addition of these hangars or storage bunkers, they look like they've been kind of built into the terrain and are a very nice touch. I can see these getting plenty of use, to be honest. Minor gripe about some of the doors in these newer buildings, they are very hard to interact with. Some distance tweaking on the door interaction distance may be needed. Not too much, just a little tiny bit, and the job will be done. There is an extensive border fortification, much like global mobilization, and it runs the vast majority of the map and includes border checkpoints every few kilometers. Much like the border, the river itself sneaks through the entirety of the map along with an extensive railway system. Other points of interest include castle ruins, this one in particular being quite realistic with its outer and inner curtain walls. Nicely done there. Also included is your very own "This is Sparta" chasm. I can imagine a lot of inventive but also very buggy armour things happening right here. Military bases and ruined industrial scenes also dot the landscape here. All in all, it's a very nice terrain which can accommodate anything from long distance sniping, medium distance armoured and infantry engagements, all the way up to some close quarters fighting within the numerous urban, ruined and natural environments. Right, let's move on to the bad and address the big elephant in the room. Did these guys rehash old assets or other modders' work? Well, gonna be honest, from the outside looking in it does seem that way. However, let's just nip this in the bud and clear up any confusion. The Cup team behind the very popular Community Upgrade Project mod have clearly stated that these assets are not ripped, sold or licensed from them. CSLA are just using the same ArmA license source data, models and materials that they themselves work off as a base. Now guys, I could have had half a video nitpicking assets or textures, but people more knowledgeable with textures, models and real life counterparts have probably already started their very own comparison videos and forum threads. I shall leave that stuff to the pros out there. Now on the surface, this seems to be the main hang-up from the community at the moment. The argument that the mods can do it better and for free was somewhat muted after Global Mobilization's post-release support and additional content of very high standard. Additionally, Prairie Fire's release went down really well, content and feature-wise. But in my humble opinion, this Creator DLC release has, I don't know, it may have somewhat damaged the goodwill obtained by those prior releases. What sent alarm bells ringing for me personally was the Creator DLC's pricing, basically £10 near half the price of SOG Prairie Fire. You could, of course, look at it two ways, I suppose. Number one, you can look at the content, feature set, and the size of the team working on it. Maybe they decided it didn't warrant a higher price tag and it was also priced accordingly. Or, number two, they didn't have full confidence in the quality of the product. Admittedly, at first I went for option 2, but I'm going to be honest, as time goes on, I think it's a mixture of both. I'll tie this loose-ended opinion up nearer the conclusion of the video. Back to it, and we have some more issues. One of these issues is reload animations. Sometimes they don't play out correctly, although this does seem to be an intermittent issue. I've not experienced it every time. Also, another issue is the sounds. They don't line up with the animation, or vice versa, depending on your perspective. Talking of sound, while I won't go as far as other people and call them rubbish, I actually did enjoy a few of the infantry weapon sounds. They had a fair bit of meat to them. However, things that should or are expected to have like meaty sounds actually sound a bit flat. Not so much rubbish, it's more of an inconsistency. And I'd like to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, but there appears to be no Czech radio protocol for the units. It's a strange omission from CSLA. I don't really want to argue about issues regarding sound though, as I know it can be such a personal and subjective matter. Each to their own, as they say. So, moving on to Iron Curtain's campaign, or lack of one. It's a missed opportunity in my opinion, considering its hypothetical scenario, a scenario clearly depicted on the Steam store page. The opportunity for storytelling was immense with this Creator DLC. I'm really puzzled by this, people. Really puzzled. Even the trailer alluded to something more, but alas, it seems a mere showcase of some of the content. Very sad news. What we do get is a series of unrelated single-player scenarios. I played about 4 of them, ranging from short, really short, to shortish. There is a mission where you can actually choose your own objectives, which I haven't had a good chance to play yet, so that may yet hold some replayability. On the subject of missions, there seems to be a multiplayer mission that looks to be a hybrid of Warlords and KP Liberation. It's called Operation Litno. It really looked interesting, but there were no servers up to test it out. Playing it solo would have kind of defeated the object, but you can see in the background, you can see the custom menus in action. It looks really interesting. It might hold some promise. I really don't want to hate on this too much. The folks developing this have probably put their heart and soul into it, but judging by the CSLA devlog entries and the updates from Bohemia themselves, something has obviously gone on in the background here. I'm not saying Iron Curtain is all bad, but in its current form it feels more like a content flavour pack rather than a full-blown DLC. Don't get me wrong, the skeleton's there for all to see, a really good terrain, an alternative timeline in a Cold War setting. I mean, that itself, you know, the opportunity there for storytelling is amazing. It also has 2 main diverse factions with a 3rd rebel force, and a really hungry community. This just needs more muscle and flesh to make it work. Would I say it's worth a purchase? Believe me guys, I've asked myself the very same question, and I'm still struggling with the answer. What I will say is this will be a matter of what you expect from a Creator DLC. Global Mobilization and Prairie Fire have set the bar in people's minds now. So regardless of the price tag, people now have this mindset of what a Creator DLC should be, which I think is going to be the main factor in your decision making here. I think the best thing is for me to kind of sit on the fence and encourage you to research more before you make your decision. I'm going to be honest, it's very nostalgic and does offer a decent amount of content and a great terrain. But guys, it's not exactly going to set your world alight. This is, of course, in my very humble opinion. Some people might think that for a mere £10 British they're getting value for money. whereas other people would rather plough that money into a donation for another mod team out there. I still think Creator DLC has a place, but setting the bar, content and price point differently for each DLC is obviously going to create a bit of confusion and discontent among the community due to people's expectations now. Anyways, there's definitely some food for thought here, guys. What are your opinions? Do you think it's priced fairly? Do you think existing mods out there provide better value? Have at it in the comments, people, but please do keep it clean and constructive as you have done so far. Look forward to reading your replies. Oh, and a quick one, please hit the like button if you've enjoyed the impressions video and subscribe. Your views, interaction and subscriptions really help your community and your channel grow on here. I have another moments video pretty much lined up ready to go, but I guess you'd want some kind of feedback on this first. So I'll see you over in the next moments video. Until then, take care and bye!